In a astonishing blow to Donald Trump, the United States Supreme Court has said that they are not in a hurry to rule in his favor against impeaching judges, rightfully legally and constitutionally and lawfully. Why is that? Well, first off, let's note here, ladies and gentlemen, that Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, thankfully, rightfully, and legally, and lawfully, and constitutionally rebuked him just recently. A link to that video reporting will be down below in the video description. Let's get into this reporting about why the Supreme Court is no longer, is not in such a hurry to rule in favor of Donald Trump. This reporting is by CNN. I'm gonna break that down for you guys here on the channel right now and figure out the reason for that being in today's video. This reporting is by the Associated Press. The article is titled, "Supreme Court Seems in No Hurry to Rule on Trump Plea to Rein in Judges Over Birthright Citizenship." Not to impeach them. That's in a completely different case to the Supreme Court. I meant to rein in the judges on the birthright citizenship order. Let's get into it. And the article reads, Washington Associated Press. The Supreme Court seems to be in no hurry to address an issue that irritated Republican and Democratic administrations alike, the ability of a single judge to block a nationwide policy, rightfully, legally, and constitutionally. My editorials note. While several justices have expressed concern about the use of so-called nationwide irreversible injunction, the High Court has sidestepped multiple requests to do something about them. The latest plea comes in the form of an emergency appeal the Justice Department filed with the court last week, seeking to narrow illegally my editorials note. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I was trying to figure out where we left off. Seeking to narrow orders issued by judges in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington, rightfully, legally, and constitutionally, that prohibit the nationwide enforcement of an executive order signed by the President of the United States, in this case Donald Trump, to restrict birthright citizenship illegally and unlawfully and unconstitutionally. My editorials note, ladies and gentlemen. The justices usually order the other side in an emergency appeal to respond in a few days or a week, but in this case, they have set a deadline of April 4th without offering any explanation. What are nationwide or universal injunctions? The standard practice in a U.S. court is that a judge issues an order that gives only the people who sued what they want. As the name suggests, nationwide injunctions go well beyond the parties to a case and apply everywhere to everyone who might be affected. There is a scholarly dispute over when the first nationwide injunctions were issued, but there is no agreement that they started increasing in frequency during the Obama administration and have only grown in numbers since my editorial edition. One reason for the growth is these broad orders may be a corresponding increase in executive action. In 2015, for instance, a judge in Texas blocked President Barack Obama's program to protect immigrant parents of U.S. children after Congress failed to pass an immigration overhaul. Shortly after Trump took office for the first time, judges initially shut down his imposition of travel restrictions on immigrants from 7 Muslim-majority countries. Shopping for judges to get a result. The Trump administration's acting top Supreme Court lawyer, Sarah Harris, described one major flaw in these court orders with universal effect. Quote, she says, years of experience have shown that the executive branch cannot properly perform its functions if any judge anywhere can enjoin every presidential action everywhere, end quote, Harris. In the emergency appeal of her birthright citizenship order, wrote, Again, ladies and gentlemen, I have to rebuke that statement. Rightfully, legally, and constitutionally and lawfully. Apparently, Sarah Harris does not know anything, not a clue of what the broad is talking about. So, I'm surprised the federal judges are not sanctioning her and wanting her to have, or causing her to, in a way, have her privileges of being a Supreme Court top lawyer revoked, as that would be the rightful thing to do in this case, because let's face it, these lackeys that Donald Trump has in top roles, such as the Justice Department, do not deserve to be having a job at all at that high of authority. Continuing with the article. Her predecessor in the Biden administration, Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar, struck a similar theme in high court filings last year, noting that the government must prevail in every suit to keep its policy in force. But plaintiffs can block a federal statute or regulation nationwide with just a single lower court victory. The issue has been exaggerated, by the tendency of conservatives to seek out judges who are like-minded. My editorial edition in Texas, Louisiana, and Missouri, while liberals file suit in friendlier courthouses in Massachusetts, California, and New York. Quote, you look at something like that and you think, that can't be right. End quote. Justice Elena Kagan said in 2022, began quote, in the Trump years, people used to go to the Northern District of Columbia, and in the Biden years, they go to Texas. It just can't be right that one district judge can stop a nationwide policy in its tracks and leave it stopped for the years that it takes to go through the normal process, end quote. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with the article, I will have you guys know here, ladies and gentlemen, that Donald Trump is saying that he is going to be running in the 2028 elections for president again. Let's face it, the Supreme Court is not going to allow this prick to be on a ballot again after his second term per the United States Constitution. Let's just face that fact right now, because, and it's gonna piss a lot of MAGA Republicans off, but that's fortunately, excuse me, how it seems to be. Because Obama can't run a third term, why the hell should Trump get to run a third term? Continuing with the article. At least two justices, Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch, have made clear they think the answer is no. Several others have suggested the injunctions raise questions the court might someday answer. Samuel Bray, a professor at Notre Dame Law School, is a leading voice arguing that judges have no power to issue nationwide injunctions. The limits on a judge's power remain even in the face of an obviously unconstitutional policy, Bray said. Again, you call yourself a law professor? You should know, because that's one of the many things that they teach you in law school, is that judges, federal, state, including the Supreme Court judges, have a legal binding obligation and the authoritative power to issue these injunctions. Continuing with the article. The restraint applies even in the birthright citizenship cases. Bray wrote on the Divided Argument blog, quote, any illegal action by the president should be rejected by the federal courts. They should reject it as courts do, one case at a time with remedies for the parties, end quote. Keegan cited in his remarks and wrote, I appreciate Justice Kagan, I appreciate you for standing up for the rule of law against these thugs. Continuing with the article. People challenging the executive order could file a class action suit which would have broader application. Indeed, an ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, lawyer representing immigration advocates and individuals in a case in New Hampshire told a judge that the ACLU was considering a nationwide class action, but the group's lawyer, Cody Woofsey, pointed out what might happen in the interim if the Supreme Court agrees to the administration's request. Quote, children would be exposed to all the harms we've talked about immediately, unquote, said Woofsey. Amanda Frost, who is a professor at the University of Virginia School of Law, thinks the Supreme Court could be open to addressing the broader issue at some point because judges impose nationwide injunctions too often. But birthright citizenship would be a terrible issue on which to do so, Frost said. Quote, it would create a burden on people at a moment in their lives when they're entering into the labor delivery room. And then you create a patchwork across the United States, incentivizing pregnant women to leave for a state that recognizes birthright citizenship, unquote, she said. She added that, quote, you think about the chaos that would play out, end quote. Well, ladies and gentlemen, looks like that's going to do it for today's legal breaking analysis reporting. If you did enjoy this legal breaking analysis reporting update, please make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. If you want to make sure that you never miss a brand new legal breaking video, be sure to hit that bell icon. It does not cost anything. It's located right below the screen here, right next to the subscribe button on the right hand side. Another way you can make sure that you never miss a brand new legal breaking reporting is by following me on my social medias that I will have linked down below. The social medias that I'm on are Instagram, Snapchat, Threads. There, ladies and gentlemen, you guys can be updated instantly as well as the bell icon on when I post a legal breaking analysis reporting update to the channel. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach the channel goal of 140 plus subscribers. The reason why I'm saying 140 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 120 plus subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach right after we reach and achieve the goal of 120 plus subscribers. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please share out the video to anyone that you know, so that way eventually this also, one, helps me out, and two, eventually reaches Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts. That way he can hold an emergency impeachment hearing in order that Donald Trump be impeached along with his dirty, filthy administration and corrupt administration. Until my next reporting, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe, please stay positive, and know that justice will prevail despite Donald Trump and his illegal administration's illegal efforts and unconstitutional orders. For now, I will look forward to talking to you all in the next legal breaking reporting.